Welcome. The purpose of this video is to go over the pretest and highlight some of the concepts that you are expected to have mastery of. So let's go through. On the first problem, you are to look at some code and determine what happens. So, what is going on here? Okay, in the first statement, we're reading T. What's T? T is a string. So when I read T using greater greater, how much do I read? Well, I read the first non-white space sequence and I stop. So after I read T, I've only read the two. What remains? Space and the rest of the line. So when I use a get line, what am I reading? I'm reading the space followed by the rest of the line. When you show your answer, for every space you need to use a caret instead. So here's one answer. The correct answer is really this. I read space and then brown foxes ran quickly. So that's the correct response here. Okay. Um, I technically speaking, it says what's the value stored in this variable. The value stored is a string variable, so it should say double quote stuff we said it should be followed by double quote because the value is a string value. In this instance, I'll let you by if you didn't put the quotes in. In other instances, I'm very strict that you show the quotes. I gave you partial credit if you put in brown foxes ran quickly without the leading space. Okay, erase, come on now, erase all ink. To the second question. This question has to do with functions. We have a function big. And what's its job? Apparently its job is to get the biggest number out of 3. Alright? What's the missing statement? Well, if you look at this code here, what's the code really doing? Stop doing this now. The code here is actually figuring out what's the biggest number. So by the time we finish this, we have the biggest number. So what's the missing statement? Well, it looks like we've done all the work. We just need to do what? Return the answer. How do we return the answer? This is an int function, so you must return the answer. What's the answer? The answer is in the variable ands, so all I need is a return statement. All right? A complete statement which is terminated by a semicolon. So you got partial credit if you just said a return. Okay. All right. Problem 3. What's the missing line? If I wanted to write a program to do all of this, what's missing? Well, we're doing I/O, but you can't do I/O unless you do what? Include I/O stream. So the answer is pound include I/O stream. Notice that when a person types in an answer, I automatically turn everything to uppercase. Not that you must type the uppercase. All right? So the correct answer is this. This has to do with the programming process. When you solve a problem, develop an algorithm, and write a program, it's possible to make mistakes in the program. Techniques for finding syntax errors include what? Well, are we talking about the algorithm or are we talking about the source code? Source code. So, how do we determine errors in the source code? Certainly one way to do it is try to compile. What's another way? Will Google search help you determine if you have a syntax error in your code? Heck no. Will running the program help you see if you have a syntax error? No. Why is that? If you have a syntax error, it won't even compile. Can you read it yourself and determine if you made a mistake? Of course you can. So in this case, there are two possible answers, and you're told here, indicate more than one choice with a plus sign. So how do I enter it? You can either enter B plus C or you can enter C plus B. I will receive it in either order. Good? Now, this program is really about what? Suppose you have the following functions. What are these functions saying? Where it says there's a function load array, it will load values into an array, and it will tell you through the first parameter how many values got loaded. Show array, you pass it an array, and you tell it how many values are in the array. To sort the array, you tell it how many values are in the array, then you pass an array. Now, if I have the following algorithm where I must do all four of these things, how do I accomplish those using the functions that you have? All right? So the first thing is, how do I load values? You're going to say I need to call load value. How do you call load value? You call it by its name. You say, I'm going to show you the key and I will show the mistakes. You say load values into what array? Array T. So we're going to say load values into array T. What's going to happen? Load array will set the value of count when it's done to say I read so many values. Next step, display the loaded array. That means I need to call what function? Show array. Show array requires what? You must pass it first an array, then the size of it, or the number of values. So I must pass it what? The array. When I say T, what do I mean? I mean everything that's in T, the whole array, the whole thing. And I pass it count. All right. Next step is the sort array. What do you pass? You pass the number of values in the array followed by the array. What array are we talking about still? It's still array T. So I say how many values are in it followed by the array T. And finally we say show array. Now let's take a look at some answers that were given that are a little shaky. All right? First of all, this answer. It looks okay, doesn't it? Because I have to say load array so many values, boom. What's the problem with this? This assumes that when I'm done, the load array loads 40 values. That's not the purpose of load array. It loads values, okay, and tells you how many. So throughout this, you are assuming that you have 40 things, which is a bad assumption. Okay? Everything else looks fine. What about this? This kind of looks fine because you got to tell it, give it a variable to set to the number that you read, and now you're saying let's pass the array. Here's the question. Is this a good way to pass an array? And the answer is no. Why is that? Where is the only place I can write T followed by open brace, close brace? Or another way, where's the only place I can put an open brace followed by a closed brace? The answer is what? Only in the header or the prototype for a function can you leave the brackets empty, because what you're communicating here is simply that A is an array, and that's the only place you do it. In your program, when you want to refer to the whole array, what do we say? We say T. T is the whole array. If I say T followed by an open brace, I must put a subscript if I'm talking about the array T. All right, so that's not correct. Clear? Now, what's the sequence of values for which this loop body is executed? Well, certainly it executes for 2, right? Then you have a value of 3. Is 3 less than 5? Yeah, so it's executed again. Um, then the value of R becomes 4. Is 4 less than 5? Yes. What's the last value? 5. Does the loop body execute when R is 5? Heck no. So what values do you have left with? 2, 3, and 4. All right? Now what's the value of num after this executes? Well, num is what you get when you add 14.89 to 14.89, right? And what is that? Well, roughly speaking, it's 29 point something, right? That's fine. So if I have 29 point something as a decimal, what has to occur? I have to store it into a variable num. What about num though? Num is an integer. Can you store 29.xx into an integer? No, you can only store the 29. All right. All right. Here's an algorithm. What am I asking you to do? If you have an algorithm, you write code for the algorithm. Step number 1 is this. Step number 2 is what? Yeah. Step number 2, read num2. That seems to be missing, huh? You don't see yourself reading the second thing. You follow? Next step, I have an if statement and all that stuff. I display the answer. It looks like all these other steps are accounted for except for this one. Right? Good. Now, I'm asking you here now to declare an array that can hold 173 float values. When you create an array, you declare. What's the first thing in every declaration? A data type. What's the second thing? The name of the variable. What's the third thing? More information about the variable. In this case, you got to say the variable is an array. So I got to say this, and then you are told the capacity of it, and you must say that part. All right, is that clear? So that's that. What's the output produced by this? Well, let's analyze this. First of all, we have a loop. This is a fake loop. Now I'm tricking y'all. How many loops do I have? 2. Are the loops nested? Are the loops nested? Are they? Answer is no, because this loop ends with this semicolon, and this loop just happens to come after it. Agreed? So what does the first loop do? It repeats for r equals 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And what does it do each time? It produces x, x, x. Agreed? What does the second loop do? It does 5, and then 3, and then 1, right? 5, then 3, then 1, but it doesn't execute for 1. So it repeats 2 times. What is it producing? It's producing C, which is 5, and then C, which is 3. All right? This was testing whether you understood what causes a loop to end, what the boundaries of a loop are. Now, what's the name of the function that's called to terminate a program immediately? And what's that? Is it return? No, return is not a function. What's the function? It's exit. Okay? We typically use this if we're checking to see if we can open a file. If we don't open a file, we say exit. Okay? Define a data type called guess that has three fields. When I list these fields, a couple of things you got to be careful about. You must declare them in the order that I give them to you. Notice that the first answer here has the ordering messed up. Okay? Everything else is totally fine. It just doesn't have them in the right order. Are we good? Notice also that following the data type name, you have a set brace. Inside of it, you have a sequence of declarations, complete declarations, each one ending in a semicolon. And a semicolon follows the close brace. Good. Okay, this is about functions. Let's see what the function is doing. Apparently, this function is reading a whole number called s. All right? Now, what about the function header? Well, it looks like, where did s come from? I don't see in the body of the function that I'm declaring s. So I have to say s must have been a parameter. So whatever this is, the function name is read it. And it must be given it says a whole number, so it must be given a parameter called s. All right. What's the function doing? It's changing the value of s. So the parameter must be passed by reference. So I've got to put an ampersand here. And what about the function? Do you see a return statement here? No. So the function must be a void function. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, good. What must a function have? Got to have a name, check. Got to have a return type, check. It's got to have a body, got to have a header. Does it have to have an argument? Don't we always write int main paren paren? Don't we always do that? Do we have parameters here? Do we have arguments? No. All right. All right. We have a record called mess. What about it? It has a field called X, but what's X? A character. Has a field called Y, it's an int. So if mess is this thing, is the whole set of values here, then what's mess.y? Mess.y is this field here. But what is mess.y? Mess.y is really a variable. What's this data type? Int. What's the data type? Not integer, but int. Because in C++, the data types have keywords. You got to use the keyword for that. Now, this is about formatting in C++. To control the number of decimal places requires what? Does it require set width? No. Does it require set fill? No. Does it require left? Does it require right? No. Does it require set precision? Of course it does. Does it require you to say fixed? Yes, I hope you remember. If I say set precision and nothing else, it really means the number of digits to display. It doesn't mean the number of decimal places. These two are required. What about show point? What do you know about show point? If the number I'm trying to display is 3.0, if I don't say show point, sometimes the number will come out just as an integer 3. So you need all three of these. Put them in any order that you want. No, it says put the choices in alphabetical order. So what are they? B and E and G. Okay? I will give you half credit if you leave out the show point. So let's see what's going to happen here. This is all about passing a parameter. I'm making a call here. I'm passing 12 for that. The first value that I'm passing is 12. The second value is the value of guess, which is 14. What happens when we're inside? I'm going to say 5 times that, which is 60. And what are we going to do? We're going to store it in the variable called those. Notice now, is this function allowed to change the parameter whose name is those? Is it allowed to change it? And the answer is no. Therefore, whatever you do here has no effect. Has no effect outside of the function. So what's the result? When I come back, the second argument that I pass, which is guess, has not been changed. So what's the value of guess? The same as it was before the call was made. What's going on? What's happening here? Some strange stuff is happening. Let me pause this thing. Okay, let's continue. Now, problem 18 says, suppose you are told that the program must read prime numbers between 10 and 30. Read it carefully. The program must read these numbers between 10 and 30. How many inputs are required? What are the prime numbers between 10 and 30? 10 is not 1, 11 is 1, 13 is 1, 17 is 1, 19 is 1, 23 is 1, 29 is 1. Okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these guys. Okay? 19. Write the assignment statement. I'm not going to go over that. You know how you have to do that. But you got to pay attention to these notes. Do not use a power function. Do not use parentheses. You got to follow those instructions carefully. Problem 20. Which line has an error? Is this okay? It's all right. Is this okay? I'm declaring constants I and K, and that's fine. I'm assigning a value to J. I can do that. I'm assigning a value to K. Can I do that? Can I do this? And the answer is heck no. Because K is a constant, you cannot change this value. So it's line 4. So here's the loop. We're supposed to read numbers until the sentinel is red, which indicates there's no more inputs. So how do we get started? We set num to 0, and we're reading the first value, which is a 10. What are we doing with it? We're adding it to the to the num. So sum goes from 0 to 10. Is num, this is num here by the way, is num minus 1? No. So what do? We read a number, which is 20. What do? We add it to the sum. Sum becomes 30. Go back. Is num, which is 20, is it minus 1? No. So we read again. What do we do with it? We add it to the sum. So 30 minus 1 is 29. Then what do? Go back up. Is num minus 1? Yes, it is now. So the loop ends. And what's the output? The output is sum equals followed by what the sum is, 29. All right? This is not the complete output. You got to look at what the whole cout statement is saying. Right? Oh, sorry. Mess up. Okay. Now, declare an array of integers, whole numbers. Going to store 5 whole numbers. That's a capacity. So we need to declare it. So it's as simple as that. Okay. Notice that with an array, we initialize it with a set of values, each value separated by a semicolon. Suppose we have the problem of writing a program to do that. The goal, this thing does not say write a program. This is a true or false question. The example below gives you 3 valid instances. Is this right? 12.50, no hours work, boom. 12.50, 20 hours work, the pay is $2.50. $15, 11 hours work, is the pay $175? I don't think so. For 10 hours it's $150. For 11 hours it's $165. So this is wrong. So therefore, what's the answer? Are these 3 valid instances? No. One of them is invalid. Okay. Now, suppose we have a data type called 3. It has 3 fields. Write a declaration that is initialized so that the fields are this. So we declare the data type is u. Data type is 3. The variable is u, and I must list a value for the first field, which is 8. For the second field, 4.5. Third field is the letter Q. It's important that you put the single quotes around it. And what's the last problem? The last problem is this. What is these operators are the increment operators. This is a post pre-increment. So what's the meaning of this? N is 1. When I do n plus plus, it means, n is a 4. When I do this, I use the value of 4. Is 4 less than 5? And the answer is yes. After I use the value of n becomes a 5. But I'm going to do the consequence here, which means I'm going to output what? The value of what? The current value of n is 5, but I'm going to increment the value, then output it. So that's going to be the value 6. Okay? So the value that you're going to get out here is a 6. All right, I hope this is some explanation. If some of the things you heard me discuss are not clear to you, you need to review that material in the appropriate places. There's lots of lecture notes in Blackboard along with the along with some videos. These are basic concepts, so if you missed on some of those, you may be in some difficulty. Signing off.